Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, it's not often that I work with people who are writers, directors, and performers who really work on stage shows and various other shows. But I interview a lot of people who are great artists and great performers. But today, I'm interviewing T.C. DeWitt. He's a writer, a director, and a performer known for The Noize, which was done in 2012, High Neighbor in 2014, and Violet in 2015. He's the co-founder of Firmament Films, an award-winning production team operating out of the Midwest since 2010. We're going to talk about his new show now, which is called The Princess Knight, which is a puppet musical fantasy adventure based on an original stage musical he wrote and directed in 2012. I want to welcome to my show T.C. DeWitt.
Hello, Susan. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you know, it's as I said at the beginning of the show, it's very interesting to have people like you because you have to do so many different things to create a fabulous show. Now, let's start out by asking you, when did you start and why this career, and what path are you on now?
Well, in terms of why I've pursued the entertainment industry and writing and directing and performing, I think it comes from very, very young. My father used to read to us every night before we went to bed, so I developed a sense of storytelling from him very early on. In fact, when he would go out of town for trips, he would record himself on an audio tape that me and my sister and my brother could listen to and read along to the storybooks if he wasn't there. And he would even put in the audio tape things like, all right, the dog is running down. TC, please stop picking your nose. Okay, there we go. And so him performing to us growing up, I think, instilled that interest in performing in me very, very young. And that's something that I carried with me from my toddler ages all the way into adolescence and into adulthood. Mm-hmm. And I found I had a real knack for being able to communicate story as well as be entertaining. Talk a lot until people laugh.
Now, TC, is doing what you do a magical experience? People perceive that people who do what you do, it's very romantic, very exciting. Do you agree?
It can be, yes, absolutely. I think that's something that a lot of artists struggle with, like myself and a lot of the artists that I work with, is that need for doing better. Like you can reach that magic moment when everything falls into place and you can see the final product of a film, or the final you see a production come together live on stage, and that magic, that fulfillment in the moment, watching people be entertained by what you've created and feeling that joy. That's where the magic comes from. But that doesn't come easily because you have to work so hard to get to that point. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can be disappointed or discouraged when it doesn't always line up, if it doesn't always feel perfect. Mm-hmm. So enjoying the moments when you get them. That's where the magic comes from.
Yeah, but when you work so very hard and you're trying so to make people love what you do, it's really a challenge, isn't it? And
oh yeah.
And I want you to explain the process. Let's start off with that. The process of making a film. I want people to understand what it's like.
Okay. Well, it starts with, like I guess anything, it starts with an idea. Whether it's the idea of I just want to make something, or I want to specifically make this. As a writer, first and foremost, I'm writing every day, even if it's just ideas down in my notebooks, or if it's driving to and from a place with a friend and start babbling about wouldn't it be fun to have this sort of thing? Wouldn't it be fun to have this sort of thing? And to actually begin the process of that, it has to go beyond the idea.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I meet people who say, oh, yeah, I'm a writer. And I say, oh, what have you written? Can I see it? And just share? Oh, well, it's in my head. Well, it's doing nobody any good to have it in the head. You have to actually put it down. You actually have to write a script.
Okay,
and then once you have that script,
mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish up.
Well, once you have that script, then the truck can really start rolling in terms of, all right, how are we going to make this? How much money do we need? What equipment do we need? What actors are right for this? What locations are right for this? And then it's a matter of pursuing all those different parts of the machine mm-hmm. to begin then create and start moving towards that creation that you have in your head, and then you put on paper, and then you want to see come to life.
Yeah. Okay, let's now talk about The Princess Knight, because it's the most recent thing that you're doing. Now,
yes.
It's a puppet musical fantasy, which I think is just terrific because, really, it sounds like so much fun. It sounds like you get a chance to laugh. You put humor into it, I'm sure. So tell us about The Princess Knight and how that started. And it's, as I said, a puppet musical fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear a little bit about that.
Well, it started as a stage show. The very beginning of this came from a time where I had been injured, and I was on bed recovery, and I couldn't get out and go running around. I couldn't go off and perform stand-up. I couldn't get out of bed, really. So I needed a singular place that I could start focusing all my creative energy. And I had this seedling of an idea of a fantasy story, what would eventually be The Princess Knight. And I started writing it and developing it and taking the things that I love about Disney movies that I grew up watching and the stage plays that I grew up attending and being involved in, and all the aspects of fantasy and fiction and storytelling, and started injecting it into this once upon a time, princess is kidnapped, hero must save her story. And I developed it over the course of a couple of years and I developed it for the stage. It started as a stage musical. Mm-hmm. And in particular, I wrote it for the community theater that I had grown up in back in Burlington, Wisconsin. I had moved to L.A., and I never forgot my roots, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote this original 2-act stage musical, The Princess Knight. Yeah. And over the course of 2012's summer, I produced it. I cast it with all people in town, in my home, in Burlington, that old community theater town. And we did a 13-show run over the summer. Right. And it was unbelievable. I could not have asked for a better cast. I could not have asked for a better experience in watching something that I had put so much love into, mm-hmm. then treated with so much love by everyone who was involved. It's just one of the most spectacular things I've ever done in my life.
I hear you. Now, The Princess Knight, as we said, mm-hmm. is a puppet musical fantasy. Now, did you write the music for that as well?
I worked with a Jameson Static and Eli King are the two musicians I worked with when I was developing the stage show. I would go to them. They're able to compose music. I am able to hum music.
Sounds like me.
So what I would do is I'd go to one of them and say, okay, here's what I have in mind for the song. I can play some chords on the guitar, and I can hum a melody pretty well. And I would say, okay, this is how I want the song to go. And then I would give them something of a melody, and then they would take that and actually write sheet music for it. Mm-hmm. And so in conjunction with their superior music talent, I was able to develop all the music for the show, which then eventually transitioned into the film with mm-hmm. those two.
Now, it's very interesting that in many different countries, I'm talking about, for example, China, Japan, places like that, they use puppetry to tell a story, to kind of make it so that you understand the history of the people in, as I said, in Japan and China. Mm. And people appreciate it. They do it on the streets even. Now,
yes.
when you hear about that, does it kind of give you the desire to kind of reach people through your puppetry? And if so, what would you like to tell them about what should they do? What should they do? What would the puppetry or the puppets say to them?
Well, the fascinating thing about puppets is that though on its surface you would just think that they appeal to kids, there's something magical about Jim Henson and the puppets of Sesame Street and the Muppets, which were absolutely an inspiration for the puppets we created for the Princess Knight, in so much as that they aren't just for kids. They transcend that. The Muppets themselves have a primetime TV series. They've always had that skew towards adults, and as you're saying that other countries use that to kind of instill messages and whatnot. I think that what we're pursued, much like Jim Henson's company has pursued, is that you can lose yourself into these creatures that, yes, there's a person attached to them, but when you interact with those puppets, when I see children interact and when I see even adults interact with them, they forget that the human is there. So quickly, people attach themselves to the creature. And there's something childlike in that. Even in the oldest adults, there's that innate childlike imagination to be able to, yes, you can bring a doll to life. This puppet is a living, breathing entity. And the show itself, the movie itself now, is about that childlike wonder that transcends age, that you can have your imagination no matter what your age is.
Right.
And I think that's, we're not trying to break new ground in telling some historical drama or some history of our culture as Americans, but the show itself has a lot of touchstones in classic fairy tales and classic cinema and classic comedy and adventures. And I think what we're showing is that the puppets are just these avatars for a much bigger story that we're all familiar with. It's universal, the Once Upon a Time story.
Yeah. Now, if you had a chance, for example, to get the Princess Knight or any of the different shows that you're writing into a country that is at war, I'm going to use this analogy, a country that's at war. If you can write something, what kind of puppets would you use, and what would your message be? Because you said it transcends everything, and I agree with you. So with, for example, all what we're dealing with now with all the things that are happening, such as, the killing in Orlando, I mean, I hate to say that, this is a way to make people a little bit more calm, a little bit more take away some of the stress for our soldiers. Do you think that this is how your show would affect people?
Okay, so I see where you're going, and you're asking if there's a method that puppets could utilize to kind of spread a message, and I absolutely think so. I won't use specifically puppets to start here, but the starred belly sneetch, does that mean anything to you?
No, but please tell us.
Dr. Seuss has one of his storybooks, and he talks about the starred belly sneetches, and it's these two peoples. They're sneetches. They look exactly the same. They're these furry, little, goofy, Dr. Seuss-looking characters. But one type has a star on their belly, and another type doesn't have any star on their belly. So they are very, very different. Clearly, these are two different types of people, stars and no stars. And and the best fantasy, the best fairy tales, and the best science fiction can hold a mirror up to society and trick them into addressing an issue. There's no difference between a star belly sneetch and a non-star belly sneetch or a two-star belly sneetch. And in doing something with puppets, I think the sillier and the goofier that a puppet would appear, some sort of creature or some sort of monster or colorful alien, you could address social issues about differences and prejudice and stereotyping And those types of themes, without being upfront and blatant about it, that would turn people off.
Right.
You can address issues through coy means such as putting stars on monsters, or if you saw the movie Zootopia, which just came out, which is all these anthropomorphic animals, but that movie's about drug dealing and racism and all these prejudices that people have towards different races. Yeah. And that's something that Disney's been very good, Pixar's been amazing at, in hiding messages very, very, sometimes subtly and sometimes not so subtly, in goofy-looking things.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you another question about this whole issue of bringing, for example, a show to different schools and to different places where people, young people, older people, teachers. Did you ever think about that? Is that something that is possible?
Taking The Princess Knight to other shows, or to, say, schools?
Say schools for it. Yes,
absolutely. Absolutely. In 2012, when we did the community theater production in Burlington, not very shortly after, one of the high schools in the nearby area picked up the show, purchased the rights to do the show, and they did it, and they performed it. And something I did in the writing of Princess Knight is I built in a lot of latitude for the people who are playing the characters to imbue some of their own feelings and ideas into how to interpret those characters. Right. A lot of writers are my word is law. Read the words exactly as they're written. And I find, especially in stage theater and in my style of directing, is that if you allow the actors to explore the characters, they can find deeper meanings and deeper ideas that, I might not have thought of in my writing process. Yeah. So allowing the high school to perform Princess Knight after the community theater did, they actually found a lot of ideas that I hadn't considered, a couple of those ideas made their way into the feature-length scripts. Oh. One in particular, which is From the Mouth of Babes, if I may. There was a little 6-7-year-old boy who was in the high school production. He's one of the actor's little brothers. And he came up to me after the show, and he talked to me about two of the characters in the play. There's the Princess Scarlet, who is the main character. And in a Disney-like fashion, she lost one of her parents when she was very little, her father. And a lot of what motivates her is trying to live up to the dreams that her father wanted her to pursue. Right. There's a second character in the show, the Wolf. And the Wolf is this lone, grumpy spy for the villain. But he wants to escape and learn about his life. Well, Liam, this little 6-7-year-old kid, came up to me after one of the high school performances that I went to see. He comes up and he's like, "Hey, Mr. DeWitt." I'm like, "Oh, I did." I know who the wolf is. Like, "Oh, you know who the wolf is?" "Yep, I know who the wolf is." "The wolf is Princess Scarlet's father."
Oh,
and as soon as he said it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that makes perfect. How did I never think of that?" Oh my God!
I'll tell you something, TC. It's very interesting how kids think.
Oh my gosh!
Aren't they amazing? I mean, they're probably more astute, if you will, about different things. And it's
certainly.
And don't you think it's so very important to get that message out to them when they're young, using your shows, using the movies and various things that you do? When you influence somebody, when you give them information when they're young, they take it with them their whole life.
Yes, absolutely. I come from a family of teachers. My dad taught elementary school for 30 plus years. My mom, my sisters, everyone's a teacher, and I'm not. But I, in my own way, by directing high school shows or directing shows with younger performers, younger filmmakers, I do my best to instill them with that empowerment. That no, you can have ideas, explore, think, come up with fun ways to do things. Like Liam rewrote just the tiniest aspect of The Princess Knight and pushed it in a better direction by having those ideas.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think that since you had it in your bio, I think it's important to let the audience know that you're partially blind with only a 90-degree field of vision. Now, one would think, if that's the case, that how do you do what you do?
Yes, I do have a visual field deficit due to a head injury that I sustained back in 2009, which changed my life. It turned the lights off. 50% of my vision gone, and it took some time to redevelop my vision, redevelop my hand-eye coordination, and but I wasn't going to give up pursuing what I was pursuing, which is to tell stories and be entertaining and make and create. So what I had to do was learn to compensate, as well as learn to trust the filmmakers I work with to keep a literal eye out for me. And every now and then something will happen, like maybe I'll bump into something, or I will miss something on the left side of the frame when looking at the monitor.
Right.
And that's why I not only surround myself with fellow filmmakers I love to work with, but those who occasionally can look out for me.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, watch out for that, watch out for that.
Now,
and that lends to the collaboration aspect of the best kind of filmmaking, the best kind of creativity.
That's a very important point, collaboration. Do you view the people you work with as part of your family or community, and is being part of the career that you're in, do you have to establish a kind of cooperation and a kind of let's call it a community?
Oh yes, absolutely. The most fun work I can do is working with people who are fun. I know that's kind of a little Confucius says situation, but the collaboration aspect of filmmaking is so important. I've worked with people who are a little more stubborn, who are a little more my way or the highway,
right.
And I don't feel that yields the best results in the long run. I think the best results come out of an open-mindedness to, everyone should know their position in that, if you can do the lighting well, do the camera work well, do the performing well, that's essential that people know how to do what they need to do. But being willing to hear other ideas and work together to achieve a goal is far, far superior of a way to do things.
That's so interesting. Well, what's in store for you next?
Well, let's see. I just finished another short film in Milwaukee. My family, my co-conspirators, the filmmakers that I came up with in my career, we get together annually and perform and participate in a 48-hour film festival.
Oh. Which
is, you have on Friday night at 7 p.m., you are given a genre, a prop, a character, and a line of dialogue. And on Sunday, 48 hours later, you have to hand in a 4 to 7 minute completed film. So you have to conceptualize it, write it, film it, edit it, music, special effects, everything crammed into a 48-hour film period, a 48-hour period.
That's amazing.
And it's something we get together and do very often. It really is the filmmakers, Julia, who you've spoken to previously, Chad Halverson, who I believe you're speaking to sometime in the future.
Yes.
And some other fellow filmmakers. And we're going to continue to get together and do those short films, but the big projects that I have in my I have my sights on. We've finished principal photography on Princess Knight, the feature, and we are in full-blown post-production mode now. Wow. So it's kind of that time period of me as the director stepping back and letting the editors do their work.
Yeah.
and poking my nose in every now and then, go, oh, just fix that little. Okay, there you go, you guys. So that's one of the main focuses, is watching that come to life in the post-production process.
That is the most interesting thing, I think, when you put together a movie. I remember when I was involved, I worked for TV, and one of the most interesting things was when everything was shot, all the B-roll, all kinds of things. It was so great to go into the editing room and see all the things that you shot and see how it came together. What fun that was. Now, I want to, again, let our audience know a little bit about you and where the Princess Knight is going to be shown and how they get in touch with you if they need some information. Would you give it to our audience, please?
Certainly. You can go to firmamentfilms.com, which is the company websites where we have a lot of sneak peek looks at Princess Knights, as well as all the short films we've made over the past few years. And you can also like us on Facebook, Firmament Films, Wisconsin. I believe we're the only ones out there. But you can certainly find me on Twitter as well and Instagram with TC's Big Head. That's me. And additionally, it started as a marketing, turned into its own entity, is the Troll blog, which is the troll character from the Princess Knights. We started a behind-the-scenes production journal with that character. Jeff Bell, who is one of our main puppeteers and the voice of the troll, we gave him the puppet, we gave him a camera and said, hey, just do some behind-the-scenes production videos. And it slowly developed into its own little web series. And you can find the troll blog on YouTube, and that will give you not only a sneak peek behind the making of Princess Knights, but it will also give you a look at a lot of the characters, quote unquote, behind the scenes. The puppets themselves we are treating very much like Henson treats the Muppets, whereas they're characters who are also actors. Yeah. You don't see the puppeteer. The puppet is the character.
There you go. Well, you've been an interesting guest, TC. I think you're an inspiration to a lot of people. I mean, absolutely, no question about it. Now, I'm going to finish on this. So if you had a chance to win an Academy Award.
Oh, if I could be so blessed.
Well, why not? Why not? Come on, Anthony.
Why not?
Why not?
That's right.
So this is what I wish for you. I wish you to get an Academy Award because you are an inspiration, as I said before, to a lot of people, especially me. I'm listening to you, and I'm just very impressed by what I hear. So thank you so very much,
You're very welcome.
Witt, for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you for listening to the Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.